Derek Carr, a name some people will laugh at and say he's mid, while lots of other people will tell you he was actually a really good quarterback. Today, we'll be looking at these three things of his career, what led to his retirement, overall his career, and why he's so underrated. The first and shortest segment of the video, why did he retire and what led up to it? Carr's had a long career of injury, and a lot of them minor, but from concussions, muscle and ligament tears, he's been through the ringer. Obviously, this most recent being the one leading to his retirement, but he's faced 3 concussions since 2014. 2 of them actually came the same season of 2023. The recent shoulder injury are really what destroyed him though. Carr has been facing a labral tear, and his shoulder has also seen some damage to the rotator cuff from reports. The labrum helps support and stabilize the shoulder, also helps the joints in your shoulder move. The rotator cuff, all of the shoulder muscles, and from the reports, it really just sounds like he's damaged a lot of the muscles in his rotator cuff. The cuff is also what helps with the rotation of the shoulder. Obviously, lacking stability and then true rotational strength in your shoulder isn't going to allow you to come back to your full form, especially since you'd have to sit the next season and miss a year of football after missing chunks of last year. We have seen some quarterbacks come back from this injury. Justin Herbert recently had shoulder surgery for something a little similar, and back in 2005, Drew Brees was facing something similar. A big difference, though, is they weren't in their 30s like Carr is. Brees was about 26 and Herbert was around the same age. But Derek Carr was super underrated during his career. Derek Carr was only a second-round pick coming into the league, although not far out the first round at pick 36 to the Raiders in 2014. Even being outside the first round, Derek Carr would actually start for the Raiders that year. He threw for 3270 and 21 touchdowns. He had 12 picks this season, but as a rookie, his stats were very solid and he definitely showed promise. Derek Carr also had a great 2015 campaign, building off his rookie year. He threw for 31 touchdowns and only 1 pick. He also threw for close to 4,000 yards and even made the Pro Bowl, making a big jump from the season prior. In 2016, Carr looked magical. He threw for about the same amount of yards, made a Pro Bowl, but in Week 16, he suffered the injury everyone says derailed his MVP run this season. He threw for the same amount of yards as the year prior, 4 less touchdowns but also 6 less picks, and this was in 1 less game. He had to miss the playoff berth that he helped give the Raiders with his 12-3 start, which was his first winning record since joining the Raiders and in the NFL. Even with his broken leg, he still had a fine year in 2017. Although he went 6-9, he still made a Pro Bowl and put up some fine stats. In 2018, 19, and 20, Carr threw over 4,000 yards every year while averaging only 9 interceptions a year. He'd also throw for 19, 21, and 27 touchdowns in those years. The Raiders only went 4-12 in 2018, but in 19 and 20 they were mediocre, going 7-9 then 500. But in 2021, 7 whole years after Carr was drafted by the Raiders finally made a bit of a jump. Carr threw for 4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. We all love Hunter Renfrow, who was Carr's leading receiver this year. The Raiders would go 10-7 this year, but sadly lost a tight game to the Bengals and Joe Burrow, who lost the Super Bowl that year. Carr also didn't make the Pro Bowl this year, even with close to 5,000 yards. And with that playoff loss, even if it didn't seem like it at the time, it was Carr's last chance to win a playoff game in his career. And it really shows and proves the saying to not take any moment for granted. Following the year, Carr would make his final career Pro Bowl in 22, but didn't eclipse 4K yards, and he had a 6-9 record, and the Raiders failed to make the playoffs. He was benched near the end of the year by Josh McDaniels, and this is a lot of the turmoil that led to him leaving the Raiders. Another note is Davante Adams had come over to play with Carr this year after the trade from the Packers. Following this season, though, the Raiders and Carr mutually parted. Carr signed a massive deal with the Saints and put together a pretty solid year. A little under 4,000 yards, but 25 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. The Saints and Carr went 9-8 and barely missed the playoffs, not having the tiebreaker against the Buccaneers. This past season, he spent a lot of time injured, but when in, he looked decent. His shoulder injury was discovered March of this year and has been going on for a bit of time. What makes Derek Carr so underrated, though? I think it comes from his lack of playoff success and being on the Raiders. He put up top 16 quarterback numbers year in and year out, most of the time being closer to a top 10 quarterback. But the lack of winning any playoff games and not going to many is what held people back from considering him a great quarterback. And for being honest, it's not really his fault for the playoffs. The Raiders are pretty dysfunctional and have went through lots of front office turmoil. We've seen them go through coach after coach. Gruden was honestly probably their best, even though they weren't crazy. There weren't any crazy results during his tenure with the Raiders. Then when Josh McDaniels came in, it essentially put an end to the Carr and Raiders era. Overall, Carr was a great, solid quarterback. He would give you some really good games, and although of course he had some bad games, he was always dependable. Even without a playoff win, I wouldn't consider him a not clutch quarterback. It's not really his fault for the Raiders' dysfunctionality. Derek Carr is one of the most consistent quarterbacks our game has seen recently. And when it comes to the Raiders, he was the bright spot for them for a lot of years.